Welcome to Financial Issues, where we steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues. Boy, we got a great day today, and it's a big day for sure. Partners, if you saw yesterday's sell alert, we'll talk about it. We'll mention it in just a moment here, but our fiscal campaign marches on. Boy, you guys are doing a great job. Let's keep it up here. We got some momentum going here these last couple days. It's really cool. Also, Mark Minnella joins us. Mark's with us right now. Mark, I'm going to say hello to you right now, brother. I know we usually don't have you on until the second segment, but you're here with us right now, so might as well have you, right, brother?
Well, what a surprise. Thank you for having me early. That's great.
Well,
yeah,
Mark,
I'm excited.
All, it is your show, brother, so it only makes sense.
It's our show.
There you go.
It's our show.
Awesome.
The Seth, Sam, and Mark show.
We're having some fun, brother. Yeah, the Three Stooges. Hopefully we're a little smarter than the Three Stooges are. Maybe the Three Musketeers is better. Also, joining the party later, Craig Haugaard's going to join us to share his appreciation for the ministry and maybe give a quick ag update as well. We'll get your questions and comments in also, folks. If you got a question, you can call in. The phone lines are open. 610-363-1110 is the number to call in. Also, we'll get to that question I teed up yesterday. We'll try to do that right now. If you knowingly send your kids to a secular college, is that bad stewardship of your children or not? Of course, partners, yesterday we had a big sell alert. We issued a sell alert for Nvidia. In the next segment, Mark's going to discuss kind of how to go about this one. Again, this is a big one, so we totally understand. But also, we really feel like, listen, there's nothing to worry about here. This is part of it. This was a sell because of BRI reasons. And so we're going to talk about that in just a moment here. Mark will discuss that. Before we do all that, though, Mark.
Just standard operating procedure.
Exactly. Standard operating procedure. Nothing to get too crazy about. Speaking of things that get crazy, Mark, the markets yesterday opened the second day of the week in mixed territory. The Dow Jones was feeling pretty good. The other indices a little bit pensive. But then by late afternoon, everything fell because Jerome Powell said that everything was fairly highly valued. Sam, am I getting that correct there?
That's what he said. Yeah. And it flummoxed me why this was a big deal for the market, because this is something we've known for quite some time. In fact, Warren Buffett seems to say it about every month, but when Jerome Powell says it, it's the end of the world.
All of a sudden, everything goes crazy. So that's exactly right. That's how it happened yesterday. Because of that, markets finished down. By the closing bell, the Dow Jones was down about 0.5%, S&P 500 0.5% down, NASDAQ almost a full percent down, and the Russell 2000 about 0.1% down. As of this morning, let's see if they've gained some kind of equilibrium. A little bit. Yeah, they've gained a little bit of it there. So the Dow is pricing in to open up around 0.1%. Same with the S&P and the NASDAQ, about 1/5. So we'll see if they've gained their resolve. Okay, so Sam, let's get this conversation started here. And Mark, feel free to chime in as well with this one. So on Monday's chat, Rich from Columbus, Ohio, gave a great comment here that I'd like to kind of tee up this conversation about being a good steward of your children. Go ahead and read that one for us, Sam.
Yeah, Rich is saying it only takes one semester of college to get them lost to the left at college or university.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rich, that's well said. I did want to highlight your comment from Monday just because I think it connects to a stewardship issue of utmost importance, which again is the stewardship of your children. And so that begs the question I asked at the top, are you a bad steward if you encourage your children to attend a secular university, knowing full well what is taught at almost every single one? And my answer is that it depends. It can be. It might not be, but it certainly can be bad stewardship. I'll say this. My generation, the millennials, was full of you probably heard this, 60 to 80% of young people leave the church when they graduate high school. So that was the millennial generation, Mark. Why is this? I believe a lot of it was because these kids my age were not actually Christians. Okay, they did the whole youth group thing. They went to church. They did all the fun stuff, but the gospel was not preached in its fullness. And because of that, the gospel never took root in their hearts. They were culpable for it, obviously, but I think that was a big part of it. If you think it's enough, folks, for you to just take your kids to church, send them to Christian school, send them to youth groups, sign them up for church events, and then expect the gospel to take root in their hearts without you as the parent actually doing the work of stewarding the gospel for them, and then you send them off to a gay Marxist communist university, you can't be surprised if they return with that kind of worldview. If the gospel didn't take root in your heart, there's an old tactic from history here that the Muslims used. It's a horrible thing that they did, but in the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire created this janissary force. They called it their janissaries, and basically what it was is they would go into Christian places, they would kidnap Christian boys, they would often sexually abuse them, and then they would turn them into the personal slaves and really the personal guard of the Sultan. And then they would send these Christians turned Muslims, warped and abused, turned into Muslims. They'd send them back into the homelands of their Christian parents to ransack, pillage, and destroy them. That's what a lot of these secular universities are doing. They're taking children from Christian families. These children have been now re-indoctrinated. They've been re-catechized into this false worldview, and then they're sent back to their families as enemies. And I'm not saying this happens all the time, but folks, this is so huge. We have to see this. This is what happens here. Now, I don't think it's always bad stewardship, but I think we have to consider one condition here. If you've trained your child up well, then I think they might be equipped to be able to go into one of these universities. Just like the Proverbs say, you train your child up in the way they should go so that when they're old, they won't depart from it. They have good reason to attend a certain school. If they have a true faith that's strong, I'd be okay with it, but they have to see this as hostile territory. You are not going into a place full of people who love you, who love your God. You're going into a place full of people who hate you.
And if you go in with that mindset, eyes wide open, you could come out all the stronger for it. Come out with the ability to challenge these ideas. That's the prayer. That's the best outcome here, is that when these young kids, 18, 19 years old, they go into these secular universities and their faith is tested, but it's never taken away from them because the gospel's taken root in their heart. It only brings them out stronger. It really does. That is the hope there. Every day he understands this 18, 19-year-old son or daughter of yours, they're walking into an outpost of the kingdom of hell, and they're armed with the gospel. And it can become a great, great mission field.
And you know, if you think about the 18, 19-year-olds, 17, 18, 19 through 25, when are their hormones running the strongest in their life? When is the world the most confusing? I mean, even in the secular world, I think about Alice Cooper, I'm 18, I'm a boy, I'm a man. The confusion of that time opens up the mind and the whole being to all sorts of influences that normally wouldn't get in because of the confusion and the hormones and everything that are going on inside a young person. They take advantage of that by tempting, by trying to show them that there's nothing wrong with love, and changing words to mean different things, like love instead of sex, you know, and drugs instead of, you know, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that they take this confusing time in a person's life, even a strong Christian, and they use it to try and change their mind, to warp their mind, to just drive wedges into every one of their thoughts. And that's why it's such a impactful time in the colleges, and why we need to be sure that our children are ready for that. Or there's alternatives, like sending them to a strong Christian college. I mean, when we get
emphasis on strong, Mark, by the way, because my brother went to both a secular college and a Christian college. He went for 2 years and 2 years. And frankly, he said, strangely enough, the secular college was way better with the woke stuff than the Christian college. So that's just to say, you got to do your research when you're deciding what school you want to go to. Just because it has the Christian bumper sticker on it, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Sam, you hit it on the head. Think about all the big universities, Harvard, Princeton, they were all formed by Christian organizations originally, and then they gave in to the money and the power and become more secular than secular. So you got to be very careful. But there are some very good Christian colleges.
That's right, Mark. Absolutely. You know, I'll share my experience also. I went to a secular university as a Christian. By God's grace, I made it out. You know, I mean, I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful for the influences I had in middle school and high school, that the gospel did take root. I don't think I was particularly valiant in my effort to spread the gospel. By God's grace, had a few opportunities to do so. Took them when my courage was there, Mark, for sure. I think there were some big differences, though. Number one, I went to college 15 years ago. Things were different then. Even just 15 years ago, the seeds of this stuff had not grown to what it is now. I also didn't live on campus. So I still commuted from home. I had my church community. In fact, by my junior year, I was on staff part-time at my home church. So that was really my community. I was just going to college really for school, and it provided that grounding. And I'll say this, Mark, even as a confession, even during my time there, I was tempted to be influenced slightly to the left of where I was. By God's grace, I think getting into pastoral ministry and marriage brought me back to a good spot. Getting married, having kids, folks, makes you, generally speaking, it makes you more Christ-like. It really does. And I think that was a huge thing there also. So I think to bring this whole conversation full circle for you, Rich, from your comment, I think you're spot on. One semester of indoctrination is all it takes. We have got to be vigilant with our children. If you choose to send them to a secular school that preaches all this nonsense and this demonic stuff, prepare them well and make sure they can surround themselves with Christian friends in enemy territory and help them see it as a mission field. I think that's really the way to go with that. Mark and Sam, I really appreciate you guys chiming in on that discussion there. We have some fun topics to talk about today. That was the first one. And then up next, we'll talk about Nvidia, of course. So, Mark, I'm thrilled to hear what you have to say about that one as well. Phone lines are open, folks. If you have questions, you want to join us today, 610-363-1110. We'll be right back after this break.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
At Financial Issues, our mission is simple: to equip believers to be faithful stewards of God's resources. That's why we provide the Financial Issues Partnership. Partners receive asset allocation models, buy and sell alerts, a portfolio tracker, conference calls, market commentary, all designed to help you invest with confidence and biblical conviction. Your generosity makes this possible, keeping biblical financial wisdom within reach for everyone who seeks it. Go to financialissues.org/harvest to give.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Folks, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciated you listening to that sort of mini rant there. Mark, you had a really good kind of follow-up for that when we were talking in the break there about being intentional with even the money that we patronize towards these certain universities. Can you tell our audience what that was, brother?
Sure. When we give, I generally will encourage people to give to Christian organizations, their church or other Christian organizations, 501c3s, instead of secular. There's enough people given to secular. There's not enough given to the Christian. I believe when we spend our money, especially on things like education, the same thing should be true. If possible, go to a Christian school, pay them. Don't pay the secular schools to become more prominent and stronger. So that if possible, go to a Christian college, go to a Christian high school or a Christian grade school, if possible, and send your money there. Not just to any school, any secular school, because what you're doing is you're actually paying them to rot your mind or your children's minds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well said, brother. And Sam, I do appreciate what you brought up as well. There are a lot of schools with the name Christian on them that are anything but that. Yeah. Thankfully, by God's grace, there are some schools that are really good too, though.
I remember my first year of grade school. I went to a Christian school, and then my mom and dad, we couldn't afford it, so I went to public school. I was 3 years ahead of everybody at the public school. I mean, I was already past my multiplication, division tables. I was, I read like I think they said like an 8th grader. It was just crazy. My second year of grade school, and I sat back for 2 years, just rested on my laurels because it was boring.
Absolutely.
Could coast a little bit. For sure,
I coasted.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Fellas, Mark, thanks so much for your wisdom on that, brother. Let's switch gears now to, I think, a topic that's on everybody's mind. I'm seeing some comments in the chat about it too, of course. Folks, we issued, again, a sell alert for Nvidia yesterday. Of course, many of you probably had large positions in that. Mark, we did get a question from Michael, who's a partner. He was saying Nvidia was 4% of his total invested portfolio. My guess is he's not the only one, not saying that everybody has necessarily 4%, but probably a large percentage of their portfolios was in this company. AI is not going away. How do we invest to overcome the change? Mark, I'll just start with you there, brother. What was the reason for this sell alert, and what can we do going forward?
Well, the reason for the sell alert was that Nvidia actually posted on their benefits page that they're going to give special benefits to LGBTQ plus people and those in transition, not give benefits equally to Christians, non-Christians, straight, gay, or whatever, but specifically to them, and that they are totally behind the transitioning process and will give them special benefits to help them to do so. So they put this, obviously paraphrasing and expanding on it a little bit, but they put this out on their benefits page. And the moment they did that, they're in violation of biblical responsible investing. And as such, we move on because we know God is God and he has a plan. There's no company too big or too small. We don't need any company in particular. If God wants to bless us, he's going to bless us. If he doesn't, he's not. And he does it on purpose for our benefit, whatever goes on. So right now we're in a position where Nvidia is no longer on our table. It is off the table totally. We don't even need to think about them anymore. It's a sell alert because they have compromised, they have grieved God's heart with what they're doing. So we'll move on. And what a great time to lock in all those gains instead of waiting until maybe something happens and Nvidia tumbles a bit. Who knows? Maybe God's getting us out before that happens, or something else, or maybe it'll continue up. Nobody knows. But the bottom line is, it's no big deal. It's standard operating procedures. This is not an option for those who love the Lord and want to honor him in all they do, including their investments. So we just move on. And in doing so, what we can do is look at all the other tech stocks that we have right now on a buy list within the Partners Hub, and the strategy team is diligently looking for other opportunities to come along. If you need to go to straight cash for a little while and slowly find one here or there in the buy list that you're comfortable with, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. God knew what was going to happen, and he knows the process that we have to go through to honor him with this. And so it's not a big deal. It's really just praise God for giving us this alert. Praise God for showing this to us, and praise God for helping us to find other companies that maybe they haven't done the skyrocketing run that Nvidia has done, and we get to get in on that now.
Mark, I so appreciate what you said there, and I don't want to overstate it either. Listen, neither you nor me, Mark, can see the future. God only God can, folks. Breaking news. But I do think it is really, really cool.
You heard it first here on
exactly
FISM.
Right. Yeah, we can't
only
tell
God
the future.
can see the future.
That's exactly right. But at the same time, Mark, I do see definitely God's hand of provision on us in getting us out of Nvidia at a time where it's been riding really high. I mean, it's done really well, and who knows what could happen.
You're not just quoting Jerome Powell there,
That's
right?
Exactly, that's exactly right. If I was quoting Jerome Powell, it'd be a lot less clear. basically, is what that would be. No, Mark, I think that's fantastic. So there's kind of two results of this now, Mark. Again, you had mentioned one of them is that people are going to have a lot of profits from this, and they also might have some money where they might be thinking, okay, how can I utilize this money well? I guess why don't we start with the profit taking here, because there will be some tax things that people need to consider for this.
Possibly.
How should people go about this?
Yeah, just an anecdote here. I see Brian in the chat says he got it for his son when Dan first put it on the buy list. He says his son's now up 3,400% in this stock.
Congratulations.
So that is a hefty chunk of change.
Well done, Brian, on multiple levels. Well done for your son and for you getting him in. That's great. Yeah. So, Mark, what should Brian do?
Well, Brian, you trusted God when you got into it because you were listening to Dan, and Dan's heart was to honor God in all he did, and you're trusting God now by getting out. One of the ways to get out, it's going to be hard to cover all those gains by trying to harvest losses, but you may have some losses in your account that you haven't been happy with. Maybe you bought some things and they're below your original cost. So you might want to sell some things in the portfolio to offset some of those gains. That would be one of the first things to do. Another thing to do possibly is to look at, if it was all bought at once, this won't apply, but if you bought Nvidia over time, then you may find your highest cost basis and sell those first because they'd have the least amount of gains in them before you move into some other areas, such as charitable gifting or trying to find some ways. Here's a strategy that has often worked over the years from when I was in practice for my clients. What we would do, we would look at their giving. Let's say, just for ease of math, they're giving $10,000 a year to their church. Well, if they have a stock that is highly appreciated, they just take $10,000 worth of that stock and donate it directly to the church. And then that would free up their cash that they were giving to either put into their regular investment account and buy something else, or to use to increase their lifestyle, or if they want to increase their giving another way. But that way, by giving the appreciated stock to the church directly, the 501c3, what happens is you do not realize that capital gains tax, because you're passing the whole value of that stock on to the church, the whole $10,000 to the church. You don't have to pay tax on the capital gains. You don't realize that capital gains, and you get to deduct the whole $10,000 if you're able to on your taxes. I say if you're able to, because it depends on how you're filing and all the tax rules. But generally, you could deduct that if you're itemizing and whatnot. So you're reducing your income, therefore reducing your taxes there. And then the church gets 100% of that money, $10,000 to utilize in its ministry and missions. So praise God, you win all the way across the board there. So that is one way to do. A lot of people say, well, if I gift this to the church and then I've given them all this cash, I write a check every week or every month, or it's automatically pulled out of my account. I'm giving them more than I wanted to. It's gonna, well, no, you don't have to do it that way. You're just taking this money over here and giving it to the church, instead of taking this money over here in the bank bucket and giving it to the church. Or you could do both if you feel led by the Lord to do so. There's also donor-directed funds. I don't know how many of our partners use those, but those are kind of neat. You just throw it in there. It works the same way as donating it directly to church, except now it gets invested. It gets invested and then doled out over time, if you wish, or all at once, if you wish. So there's different ways to do it. But the idea is to think about the charitable aspect of it. Here's God giving another way to give, and maybe a more efficient way on top of it. So utilizing wisdom to glorify God by taking advantage of the tax laws that are in place, and still funding the kingdom, funding the light.
And Mark, we just got a comment here in the chat. Robert from Texas is asking, and I think really stating we could do the same for FISM as well. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And we would really appreciate it. Thank you for that thought.
It's awesome. It is pretty providential that this is happening during our year-end campaign.
It is.
I don't want to assume that God is telling you folks, hey, take your Nvidia gains and give them to FISM, but there's not.
No, I'm absolutely sure that's what he's saying, Seth. No,
we don't have a crystal ball, but we are diviners. No, I'm kidding.
Or preborn would be another area that I'd really say. I'm looking into some things about preborn that my heart is breaking, because I think all those babies that are being lost. Yes, all these are saved, but preborn's doing such a great job on that, and I, never forget to give to preborn.
Amen. Well, Mark, I'm so glad that you gave us those options there for what we can do. We're coming to the end of this segment here, folks. I think we'll pick this conversation up on the other side of the break. And let me tell you as well, if you've got questions about this, I'm sure some people out there might have questions. Mark's going to be on with us. You can call in. The phone lines are open, 610-363-1110. Again, 610-363-1110. If you've locked in a lot of gains, like Brian from Wildwood, Missouri, locked in almost 1,000% gain, not too bad there, brother. Well done. And you're trying to figure out what to do with it, we would love to get to talk to you about that. And folks, let me say also, we mentioned our campaign earlier. Just from a campaign perspective, we're doing an amazing job. I've been told, and guys in the control room, you'll have to confirm this, but I heard talk in there that we just got a $10,000 gift, which is pretty amazing.
That is 100% correct. We just opened up a check for $10,000.
Amazing stuff. So from today and yesterday, these last 2 days, we have just surged forward, folks. It's been absolutely amazing. So if you want to get in on that, you can do that, financialissues.org/harvest. Thank you to everybody who's given. We're increasing our monthly soldiers. We're increasing our monthly donations, and by God's grace, we'll keep on doing it. More financial issues around the corner when we get back.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of, this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
My name is David Hunsinger. I live in Edgewater Park, New Jersey. I came across financial issues by accident. I believe it was on a certain TV station at that time. I got interested in finding out more, so I went online to find out more, and that's when I became a more active participant in financial issues. I did have some interest in investing prior to getting involved with FISM. Biblical investing I thought was more important, so obviously I changed my approach. I know I'm much happier for it. I'm probably more at ease now. It's probably the best way to sum it up in terms of I don't necessarily worry about if this is going to happen, if that's going to happen. I don't worry about that. If I was to encourage somebody to participate in FISM, I would use myself as an example. I've been very pleased to participate. If God's happy, I'm happy.
Align your investments with your faith. Become an FISM partner today at financialissues.org.
When a woman comes into a center, she's being pressured from her family, from her friends, by her circumstances, by the rhetoric of the culture to believe that this is a quick and easy way out. If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity. And so we just encourage you to make a difference at whatever degree you can, whether you can do a $28 contribution for one ultrasound, whether you can underwrite an ultrasound machine for $15,000 or 10 ultrasound machines for $150,000. Where does the Lord have you so that you can make a difference?
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
folks. Welcome back. Financial Issues. Good conversation today. Lots to talk about. Mark, let's jump right back into it here, brother. We got a couple questions there in the chat, and we'll start with this one. A couple people have asked it. Eddie has asked it. Brian has asked it. I'm sure other people are wondering. The basic gist of the question, Mark, is this. For stocks that are BRI and then go non-BRI, like Nvidia, should we send the petition to the company in question first, give them time to revert back, and if they don't revert back, then we issue a sell, rather than what it seems like what we're doing with this one? What would you say to that, Mark?
Well, first of all, I really appreciate your grace and your love that you're showing to these companies. That is awesome. Yeah, I don't mean that as a joke. I'm very serious about that. And I thought about that a lot. However, it's important to realize that usually every stock that has gone on the BRI sell list for sell, because of compromise, has been contacted already by not only our people who are doing the screening, but by many others. This is not a new battle, it's a long battle. For example, with Nvidia, for the last 6 months, I know they have been trying to talk with somebody at Nvidia regarding the situation which the HRC rating, which threw a flag up, mostly because they couldn't find any violation, any activity that they were doing that would cause the HRC rating, nor could they find any transfers of money or donations or things. So they were trying to find out why their HRC rating was showing them as having compromised biblical values.
So lot they had smoke, already but been no actual fire at the time.
Right. Yep. And that's why they haven't been on the list for now. They haven't been on the sell list. So people were reaching out, trying to confirm their positions and and their activities and what they're doing with the money that should be going to either growing the company or going to dividends to the stockholders. So that's already happening behind the scenes. So regarding a petition, we are going to put a petition together, and this time it's going to be a little bit different. We're expanding our petition to be broader, wider, and bigger. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is get as many people involved as possible in these petitions, along with our partners. So if we could get 50,000 or 100,000 or 500,000 people to sign this petition, it'll have a much bigger impact because it will then catch the media. The media will start talking about the petition, and more people will get involved with this. So hopefully when we send out the petition alert or send out the petition, the link to the petition, you too will help us with it to send it out to as many people as possible. The goal isn't to shame. The goal is to help companies come in line with two things. And this is very important. One is they should be doing their business, not ours. That's the bottom line. We didn't switch rails. They did. They came into the church and started compromising biblical values. They weren't formed for that. People didn't buy their stock for that. People bought their stock for the business that they do. And we want them to do it in a way that doesn't use or abuse people. And quite frankly, personally, I believe that transition is one of the worst abuses you could do to somebody, both mentally and physically. And anyway, got me off track. I'm getting on a soapbox. My apologies here. But we need them to get back in their lane and do a great business, not utilize money that should be used for business and for the stockholders for their political or cultural agenda. That's all we're asking them to do. And not to compromise all the laws that are on the books. For example, I really believe giving special benefits to a special class of people all by themselves compromises many laws, which I think we'll see later on in this administration getting tighter and tighter on those things.
Very good.
Yeah, no, that's
go ahead.
No, Sam, it's all good. Mark, I was just going to add to what you'd said there. When you had mentioned, there are a lot of people who were looking into this already. We had our eye on it as well. In fact, I can remember several years ago doing some deep diving, even calling some of the executives at Nvidia trying to get an answer for this. I got through to some people, but never got an answer. Never got an answer.
I think it's so important to point out that there are things going on behind the scenes. I see Eddie in the chat. He's saying, if I remember correctly, didn't we send a petition to Tractor Supply or Costco, and they made a decision to stay away from non-BRI, thus averting a sell alert? The difference with this situation, though, is that Tractor Supply and Costco were in the situation that Nvidia previously was in. There was a lot of smoke, but there was no actual fire, so there was no reason to actually sell them. What we sent them was more of a warning shot petition, and yes, they did back off. What I'm hearing from Seth and Mark is that those warning shots have already been fired behind the scenes, and they've not really listened.
That's exactly right. Mark, you had mentioned this also. I think it's so important for us to remember this, folks, too. Ideally, it would be great for us to be able to say, you know what, let's wait for the sell and let's try to get Nvidia to change course. But we already know they're not BRI. We would then be compromising our conscience as a ministry, you all as personal investors. I believe that'd be disobedient to God. So I believe if we know they're not BRI, we got to sell. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, how wonderful. I mean, think about this. I know some people might be going, oh, no, I got to sell my Nvidia. It's been so good. Well, it has been so good. Praise God first and foremost. It has been great for us in our portfolios. And we praise God for that. And it was his guidance that led us into this. It was a company that had no offenses towards biblical responsible investing. So it honored God. God led us into this. And now God's leading us out. How many times, Seth, how many times, Sam, have you sat there in your prayer and said, God, I just need a clear answer to this. I need clear direction. Can you guide me? Yeah. And then here it is. It's very clear. These people are taking corporate earnings and they're utilizing it to use and abuse people and convince them that God is wrong, that he makes mistakes and people's sex is wrong and he makes mistakes there too, and that God isn't perfect and that God is not God is what they're trying to say. The bottom line comes down to it when it comes to these type of things, the transitioning, is people are saying God made a mistake. I'm really supposed to be a girl, not a boy. God made a mistake. I'm really supposed to be a man, not a woman. So that's what they're saying with this from a biblical perspective. And that hurts. It's almost a little harsh to say it out loud, but that's what they're saying. Why would we ever want to partner and become part of a company and therefore take on the sins of the company or those 12 people on the board of directors that decide that they want to do this? We don't want to do that. We want to honor God with all we do. First and foremost, this is how it goes. We have a pile of stocks on the table here. Of these stocks, we get all the pornography and we brush it off the table. And then we go to the next thing. We say, okay, all those companies that are enslaving people, like the Uyghurs in China and whatnot, we take those and we just scrape them off the table. And then all those stocks that are involved in sexual immorality, either products or services, we scrape those off the table. And we keep scraping all them off until we have a pile left that is not compromising of God's tenets of love. And from there, we trust in God to invest in those things, and it's up to him. The future is his. And we know when we honor God that it comes back in a tenfold over and over again, not just financially, but blessings of peace and joy, blessings of so many other ways, a strengthening of our faith. So that's how it works. We don't start with, gee, I wish this stock was in here. That's not the way it goes. But we don't ignore that company either. We're not giving up on Nvidia. We're going to create a petition of love to say, hey, here's 4 points of why we're concerned about this and why all of our partners are going to join in together to put your stock aside now and not look at it anymore until you come back to what you're supposed to be doing and stop compromising our ability to honor God.
Mark, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you for those words. Folks, hope that it's making sense. I see another question in the chat. Robert Mark is asking, Mark, could you please explain the process of donating stock directly to a nonprofit and the tax implications, short-term, long-term gains? We did address this in segment 2. However, Robert, I think, Mark, it might be good for us to maybe just do a quick review once we come back from the break, if that works.
That would be good.
Awesome.
Sure.
Okay, that sounds good. So, Robert, just hang on there, brother, and we'll do a quick recap of that also. Yeah, that is a great question, because that's going to be really big. I think a lot of people are kind of thinking about, okay, how can we make the most of these gains that we've gotten without taking too much of a huge tax hit? It's really good stuff there. So many of you on the chat this morning. I appreciate that so very much. There's just too many people to give shout outs to, but know that you're all there and we see you and we love you all. Facebook, I'm sure, is popping, as well as YouTube and Rumble. You folks can call in again, 610-363-1110. Mark, this is a fun conversation. It is.
I find it very joyful to be involved in this, because, like I said, how often do you get clear direction from God? I mean, I get in the way. I mean, he could put a sign out in front of me that says, Mark, do this. And I say, God, could you give me a bigger sign? I'm not sure,
Absolutely.
But this is one of those sure things. It's time to move on.
Yep. It really is a gift from a gift of grace from the hand of God, folks. So we'll talk more about this on the other side of this break. Financial issues, again, 610-363-1110. We'll be right back after this. Well, as we come to the end of another year, we reflect on God's faithfulness. And if you've been blessed by financial issues, would you prayerfully consider giving before September the 30th? Your gift keeps us on the air, supports our team, and helps us improve the tools and resources we offer. You are the reason that we do what we do. We are so excited for the new opportunities God has in store for us next year. Go to financialissues.org/harvest to get involved today.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
We're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant. My family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She offered to get me an ultrasound. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep him.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Boy, folks, it is so cool to see so many of you. There's a sense of calmness in the chat, a sense of excitement even too, locking in the gains, being biblically responsible. That's what obedience does, man. David talks about it so much in the Psalms that when we obey the voice of the Lord, it's like healing to the bones, isn't it, Mark? It really is amazing. So
that's a beautiful verse.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So Robert Mark was asking a good question here, and we're going to get to Craig Haugaard in just a moment, have Craig come on to share his testimony of FISM. But before we do that, Robert's question, Mark, here, he's saying, please explain the process of donating stock directly to nonprofits and the tax implications, short-term, long-term gains. So yeah, Mark, I think that'd be great to just walk people through. They see the gains, they're about to realize them, but they want to, not have so much of this money stolen, or not stolen, taken by Uncle Sam, what do they do?
Yeah, well, when it comes to capital gains, the long-term capital gains, you don't realize that because you're not selling the stock, or so you're donating the whole stock. So you bought it for $1,000 and maybe it went up to $5,000. You donate the stock, let's say the $5,000 worth of stock to your 501c3. Now, the way this happens is you need to get a hold of the organization to begin with, if it's your church or financial issues, and get their account number so that and broker information so that you'll have that for your brokerage to give them the information. And then you work with your broker and they'll transfer directly to the organization's, the nonprofit's account, and they deal with it from there. Then when you file your taxes, you'll be able to deduct the full amount on your taxes, bottom line. So you don't pay the capital gains and you end up being able to get a great deduction, and it's not that difficult. One last thing is I would really highly recommend you get a receipt from whatever the organization is that you've donated the stock to, so you have proof of it when you file your taxes.
Mark, that is awesome. Oh, is there anything else that we need to consider in terms of, like, even like the very process of it? Like, I'm sure people might even be wondering, do I lock in the sale without having this process started, or can I issue the sell and then get the process started that you just mentioned? How does
you don't work? Sell the stock.
Okay.
The bottom line is you don't sell the stock. Let's say you have 1,000 shares of Nvidia. You take whatever amount of shares you want to transfer to that organization, and you let your broker know after you've gathered the account number and the brokerage information from your church or from the organization. You give that to your brokerage, and they'll take that and transfer those shares in kind to the church. Let's just use church as the example. The church then will take those, and hopefully they'll be biblically responsible with them and sell them right away if they're Nvidia, and then turn them into cash and then position them any way that they see fit, because you're trusting them to manage that money from there on in. You've given the stewardship of those shares to that church. So it goes in kind. Don't make any sell on those stocks. You don't sell it and then transfer the cash. You transfer the certificates, actually, not in physical form, but in digital form, to the church.
That's awesome.
I hope
Mark.
that helped.
That helps a lot. Robert, let us know if that answered that question there, but I know that helped me a lot for sure. People in the chat are laughing at my Freudian slip there, Mark, because I did slip there and say that the government steals our money, but it is. I'll just leave that one there. But awesome, Mark. Thank you so much for that, folks. Hope that can help.
Well, it is taken by force.
It is taken by force. That's right. It's loving though, right, Mark?
In a loving way.
Exactly. Hey, Mark,
it's just because you're a truth teller.
That's right.
You're
man.
bold and unafraid.
Exactly right. Well, speaking of truth tellers, people who are bold and unafraid, and people who are just downright handsome, I tell you, we've got Craig Haugaard on the program with us today, folks. It is a real treat. We've had a busy show, but it's a nice way to kind of put a bow on this show today. Craig, welcome, brother. It's awesome to have you today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I always admire your perceptiveness, man. It's great to pick up on this stuff.
Listen, from one genius to the other, brother. That's all I can say. Listen, I'm really excited.
I got to tell you, before you get going here, your comment about stealing tax money reminded me of a few years ago. There was a poultry company that was getting a lot of pressure for the way that they process chickens. And they came out and announced a kinder, gentler slaughter was their words, which I thought was a great combination of words. And every April 15th kind of feels like a kinder, gentler slaughter. It feels like, but
kosher
anyway.
chicken.
There you go. Listen, it's all for our good, right? They're just looking out for us. Oh, good God. Yeah. Well, Craig, I'll tell you what, brother. I'm thrilled to have you join the conversation here as we've got Mark on. I have a sneaking suspicion that you guys are going to get along really well. Just a lot of similarities there. But Craig, the purpose of this call, normally we have you on for the Ag Report, obviously, but today, I really wanted to just have you on for you to share your appreciation for FISM and what it means to you. And why you, in your way, as our ag reporter, have stuck with us and what the ministry means to you. So the floor's yours, brother.
Well, I think had we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, it'd probably be different than it is today, to be honest with you, Seth. I'm really struggling with September 10th and the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And to me, it really clarified that we are in a battle.
Yes.
It definitely is a battle going on. It shouldn't shock us. I think it was in Matthew 24. They said they'll deliver the tribulation, kill you, and be hated by all nations because of my name. In Ephesians, it makes reference to putting on the armor of God, but it also notes our struggle is not against flesh and blood, against rulers, the authorities, against powers of this dark world, and against spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms. And I think that's really tough to keep in mind sometimes, because it can be almost personal, this battle. But as I thought about how to respond, in response we've seen of love versus what I would say is demonic evil on the other side. I think as I thought again about the armor of God, you don't monetize your enemies, right? I mean, it talks about putting on the belt of truth and the breastplate of righteousness and all those things. But in World War II, we weren't buying Volkswagens from Nazi Germany. We weren't doing business with our enemies. And maybe I'm being too strong in use of the word enemy. But there's clearly...
I don't think so. I think you're being here. Firm.
Yeah, I agree with Mark, Craig. You're exactly... I mean, there are clear battle lines drawn here.
Yeah, and there are definitely battle lines drawn, and we need to be very careful in every aspect of our life, how we deal with this. And then certainly money is an incredibly powerful tool, and to fund people that stand against our values, that hate what we stand for, frankly, is just flat out wrong. It's not being a good steward of what God has given us. I mean, God is very clear that he owns everything, and it's on loan to us. We're to manage it. But our investment should not work against his purposes. And so as I look at what Financial Issues is doing, and I look at the broader landscape of what's going on in this nation, to me, the last couple of weeks have driven home maybe more strongly than I've ever seen in my life the importance of being biblically responsible, the importance of not funding the things that fight against God and against everything that we stand for. So I would just urge listeners to be, if there's ever been a time to be bold in your faith and strong in your convictions, it's now. I think that we're at a real tipping point in this country, and God is ultimately going to win, and God is going to be glorified. But let's make sure we're on the right side of history in every aspect of our life.
And it's so true,
well
Craig.
Said.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, man. The people who throw that term around a lot, the right side of history, it is God's side. That is the right side.
It is God's side.
That's the right side.
We have the advantage of having read the history book, and we know how the last chapter comes out. It's not a mystery. I mean, we know how this is going to end.
Yeah, we read the history of the future already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Boy, Craig, I appreciate that so much, brother. That's such an encouragement. And Mark, having you on here as well, the reminder to me is that the fight needs to be fought. And if it's not going to be us, who's it going to be? We have to keep fighting. And the part of the reason why I love Financial Issues so much, and Craig, you alluded to this also, is we have a very unique weapon that we fight with. It's our money. Without money, these wicked organizations cannot operate. And without money, God-honoring organizations cannot operate. Churches cannot operate. The gospel cannot go forth. Money is so very important. And Craig, I'm so glad that you talked about that. I wish we had more time, gentlemen, but we have come to the end of our segment here. Craig, appreciate you so much, brother. Thanks for joining us today on the show, man. It's always a pleasure.
Always my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Good seeing you, Craig.
Okay, good seeing you, man.
And Mark, I'll tell you what, brother, I appreciate you so much as well, man. Your wisdom on the show today, it was a real gift to me, and I know to all of our chat, brother. I'm looking forward to doing it again, brother. Thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Folks, we keep fighting. We're going to win. All right, let's keep on fighting. Let's be encouraged. We're fighting the good fight using the weapons that God has given to us with this ministry. It is our money. Let's be good and faithful stewards with it. Let's never stop. Never, ever stop. Be on the lookout for that petition that's going to be coming out for Nvidia very soon. And folks, again, just remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Let's be good and faithful stewards with all of it. God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you tomorrow.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.